Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our camping paperscape. I've got everything cut out here in front of me, so let's just jump right in. Not going to be a lot of gluing, mostly just layering using foam squares. So if you don't have foam squares, I definitely recommend you head over to the craft store, jump online, and find some foam squares. I've got these here. I've got some that are, I think these are about almost 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, about 1/4 inch, and then actually these are 1/4 inch, these are 1/2 inch. It's good to have a variety. You can always take some scissors and cut them to a smaller size if necessary. But as you can see here in front of me, I've got most of it. Actually, the whole thing's pretty much laid out, and I did this just so that it's easier for us to kind of visualize what we're going to be doing, especially me. So what we're going to do first is start off by gluing some of the smaller elements together. Yours may just be scattered about, and that's fine. This top layer here, this layer right here, and this green layer, these are going to get glued down flat right on top of each other like so. Okay, so you know what, let's just go ahead and do that. And while we do that, I'll share a few little tips that will make this process more enjoyable and easier for you. Obviously, you want to make sure that your glue bottle is ready to go. And with this layer here, what we're going to do is we're going to flip this section over. And because this is almost a full 12 by 12 sheet of paper, it could be helpful to break this down into sections. And when I say sections, in this case, probably just break it down into half. So that way we're not trying to get glue on this entire thing and try to get it all lined up and perfect in one fell swoop. It may not work out very well because, well, you've got a lot of surface area to go, and this glue does not stay wet forever. So I'm going to go about halfway down, okay, and just with this one, it doesn't really matter if you have it in the correct orientation right now because the top piece is symmetrical, so we can always rotate it and flip it as necessary. But I do have it in the correct orientation, and you know that to be true because of this little bit of grass right here, okay? So I just glued down 1/2 of it and got that nice and lined up. Everything looks perfect. And then what you can simply do then is take this and just kind of peel it back gently. You don't want to crease it, so be careful. And you can actually do it this way too. Put that on your surface, lift this part up, and then apply your glue to the rest of it, the other half. And then we don't have to worry about trying to get the whole thing aligned and glued all in one fell swoop. Just literally can take our time with it and make sure that we get plenty of glue on it, and that should, you can just drop it right on there because we know we've got it lined up. And then we can press that down, okay? I'm sorry my voice is a little froggy. I've got a lot of allergies lately with the increase in the temperatures and the pollen and the tree pollen. It's just driving my sinuses nuts. Okay, so that part is done. Okay, so we can technically put that off to the side for now. I'm going to flip it upside down. Okay, so this layer is going to go on next, and I just wanted to get the front on and go through these sections so that we can get these little elements glued together. We will build it from the bottom up ultimately, but I just kind of want to show you how everything goes together before we do that. Okay, so with this piece here, we have this little water element here. We're going to take this and glue it to this piece. Gives us a nice little two-tone sort of effect. Go easy on the glue. We don't want to warp the paper. And you can see that we have that little wispy little piece of grass there. You want to make sure that you do get some glue on that because we don't want it to go flailing around or get ripped or destroyed. Just line that up as accurately as you can. Just like that. If it helps, just kind of pick it up like so. And just press down. There we go. And I'm going to take these pieces here, and that's going to go like just like that, okay? So we're going to throw a little bit of glue on this piece, like so. And that is going to get glued just like this. There we go. Now you'll notice on this piece that we have a series of little markers. Before we put glue on this, you want to kind of get a feel for where this is going to go. These little markers basically just contour the outer edges of various sections of this piece. And you want to pop it in there, and you'll see when you have it right that those little markers kind of disappear. So that's how we want to get it glued down. Throw a little bit of glue on the back. You don't need a lot. It's a pretty small piece. And pop that right into place. Just like that. Okay. Now we're going to take this piece and actually glue it to this section here. Okay. So if you notice here, there's like a circle. Well, this is 3/4 of a circle. If you follow that circle, this will continue the circle. And there's this little hump here where you can match that up. And then of course this little blade of grass. Okay, and that's essentially how you want to glue that down. This is going down flat. Let's get our glue on the back of this. And then of course we do want to throw a little bit of glue on these little pieces of grass here, just to make sure that that all stays in place. And there we go, just like that. Perfect. Press those down. Okay. All right, so this section is ready for pop dotting. I'm going to flip it over, put it on the next layer, and we'll grab this section. This is where we have our little tent and our little campfire. Okay, so let's assemble the campfire. This piece here is going to be the backmost piece, and then we'll take and throw a little bit of glue on our red piece, just nice and easy. And we're going to match that up with what will eventually be the little stones that create our little circle for the fire, our fire pit. And then we've got our little stones, and it's going to go right on the bottom, just like that. Okay, then we're going to take this piece and glue it right here where we have the shadow element for our fire. This project should go together pretty quick, and there's actually, I didn't do a lot of inking on this, especially on the big parts, just on a few of the little details like the fire, the tent, the mountains, the moon. Okay, now as far as the tent goes, we've got this piece. This is going to go on top. So let's get our glue on this, and then we have one more little overlay to add a few extra details. And that's going to go right there. Perfect. And then we'll grab this little piece and just doing little dots, thin lines, little dots. Go easy on the glue here. It's a very delicate piece, and you can pretty much see how that matches up. It's kind of flimsy, so just be careful. There we go. Perfect. All right, now obviously we can tell where that's going as well. So let's flip it around right on the back, get your glue flowing, and you can see the little shadow element for our tent, and that's going to go right there. Okay, so we've got our tent with our fire ready to go. Flip it over. And now this next layer actually doesn't have anything. That's just our trees, so we can put that away or just flip it over. And then next we have our mountains. And this big piece obviously is going to match up with the little peaks of the beautiful mountains back there. Now, a lot of you over the years have said that you feel like sometimes you're watching Bob Ross when you're crafting along with me. Well, hey, how about this one? This is as close to a Bob Ross painting as we'll probably ever get. Very cool. A little homage to the one and only. Okay, so we're going to line that up and pop that right into place. Press that down gently. Okay, so that's looking good. I just noticed here that I've got just the little ends here that I didn't get enough glue on. So I've got a scrap piece of paper that I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right at the very edge. Just slide it right under there. Add a little extra glue just to the tip of that. And then press it down. If you have an area up here as well, just do the same thing. You can actually peel some of that or pull some of that glue off using the same little piece of scrap. And that one's okay. All right, and now we've got that part in place. This little guy here, you'll notice on this piece there are a series of little markers, and that's to help you with the placement of this piece. So just use the glue sparingly here on this little element. Nice and easy. And you can just kind of hold it like that. It should be sturdy enough to hold just like this. And line it up with the little markers there and pop it right into place. You gotta give it a little nudge. There we go. Okay, so that's it for the mountains. Very simple. Now we'll take this and just pop it over there. And now this piece was never actually cut. This is a full 12 by 12 piece. And you also have these two elements that were cut out. Okay, and what this does, this is a little corner piece. We're going to take that and grab a pencil. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and pop it all the way in the corner of your full 12 by 12 sheet. Okay, and just kind of pencil in the corner of that, like that, just so you can see where the corner is. Okay, then we're going to take this and we're going to align that with the little corner. Make sure it's straight. If you need to, you can take this piece and draw another one over here just to make sure that you have it straight, but I'm not overly concerned about that. We're going to pop that right in the corner, and this is where our moon's going to go. That's just so we know exactly where we're placing it. Okay, so on this sheet here, that's going to go down flat. I'm just going to get my glue in place here on my moon and just pop it right into this little slot. There we go. And then we can get rid of this. Use this as scrap for whatever you need to use it for. You can use it to kind of paint glue on other projects if necessary. Okay, so at this point we're ready to start layering. And by the way, I shouldn't have erased that, because we're actually going to use that. Keep this little marker in place because we're actually going to use that to help us position the rest of the layers. So I should not have erased that. All right, I've got one there, and I think it would be helpful to have one in the other corner. So down on the bottom right, you can do 3. If you use a silhouette, these are almost like little registration marks, just so we know where everything goes precisely. Okay, so again, don't erase this, leave it there. It's a good little indicator to help us make sure that when we start layering things that we get it nice and centered. If it's a smidge off, it's not the end of the world, but do your best. Okay, so we've got the back layer in place. We're going to start layering this, so this is going to go one layer up. So I'm going to flip this over and we are going to start having a foam square fest here. And I'm going to bring these all the way out to the very edge, and the corners for starters. Okay. And then, of course, find the middle point between those points, like so. Okay. And then, of course, we will also need some in the center. So bring those down. I'm going to put one here, just trying to kind of offset them a little bit to spread out the load. Okay, and then what I like to do after I put these on here is flip it over and just kind of give it a little push test to see if I can identify any areas where it's kind of, bowing in. And another thing you could do too, they have like this dimensional foam tape. You could definitely use that too if you prefer to use that. I just want to try to make sure that it stays as flat as possible. So yeah, this is a big piece. We're using a lot here, but it's okay. These things are fairly inexpensive, and I think you get the idea here on what we're doing. Pretty straightforward. So we're going to peel these off and then pop this right on top of the previous layer, and then we'll just build on from there. So I'm sure that for Father's Day, and actually this would be great for a child's room too. I know that kids, I don't know why, because they don't understand how luxurious it is to just rent a cabin, but I guess there's something to be said about camping. I used to do it more when I was younger, until I realized that camping, especially if you sleep in a tent, you're basically sleeping in a greenhouse, because when that sun comes up in the morning, you are cooking. And when we go camping, we tend to stay up late and have a few adult beverages, and it's not always a great mix. Dehydration and then sleeping in a greenhouse is not fun. All right, so this next layer, these trees, there's really nothing that we need to do to this. Okay, so this one's going to go right on like this, and of course we're going to flip this over and get our foam squares ready. Now, one element that I am adding to this, what I'm going to do is, now, quick observation here. I'm looking at this and I noticed after the fact that this little area here, it's kind of bending in a little bit, and I don't like it. So I took the backing off of one side, and I'm just going to tuck it under there. And it's okay. It's just glued to one side. Whoops, what did I just do? Oh, it went kind of sideways. I know it's not glued to both sides, but it's still gonna bring it up. Okay, so that actually looks a lot better. All right. Anyway, back to this guy. I'm going to flip this over, and we're just going to repeat the same thing again with our foam squares. If you want to try to use these more sparingly, you can try it, but again, I think that over time, it may start to kind of warp more. I have some or paperscapes that we've done over the years, and you know what? I never really have too much of a problem with that sort of thing happening. So it may not be an issue, but I would say more is probably better than less when it comes to this, just to, help it maintain a correct shape. Hopefully I have enough of these foam squares. I wouldn't worry too much about putting a bunch of foam squares on the trees. I'll show you what we can do with that here in a second. There's little areas where obviously it would be helpful to have maybe a small one. Let me do this little push test here. Okay, yeah, so on the trees here, this is why it's great to have a variety of sizes. I am going to put one here, and these black ones are perfect because they're not, you won't really see them from the side if you happen to, catch a glimpse of it from an angle, but once it's in the shadow box, you probably won't run into that. One other thing too, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I do want to try to get one a little bit up at the top of the trees. So you can literally just take some scissors and cut. You can cut these as small as you need to. I'm actually going to cut this one twice, cutting it in half twice. I've got this tiny little guy now, and I'm going to put him right here at the top of this tree. And I think that's going to work very well, actually. And then I'm going to take this other one, and I'm going to go right about here on this guy. There we go. And then I'll hold it up. All right, so another thing that I love about these foam squares, and I'll show you the packaging so that you can see it. They look like this. It's by Scrapbook Adhesives. The backing comes off very easily. Some of the brands that I've purchased and used from like Michael's and Joann's, the backing is kind of a pain to get off, and it just makes this process more tedious. So I just love how easy this peels off. Makes very quick work out of this, and again, just makes everything more enjoyable. I don't like to be frustrated when I'm crafting. Obviously, I don't know who does, but. And then as we get, as we get closer to the front, I guess I'd like to say that we're going to be using less foam squares. It's partially true, but not completely. Okay, so at this point, all we're doing now is just lining this up with that previous layer. Okay, so just make sure that it's nice and aligned, nice and centered, and then just drop it right into place, just like that. Okay, there we go. That's starting to come together. All right, next layer, our little tent. Okay, you can see how we're starting to layer everything together here. So I have these Zots here too. If this is all you have, it could work, and it will work. I'm gonna just throw one on so you can see the difference. The only problem with these is that they move. I don't know how else to explain it, but they move. They don't stay in one place like the foam squares do. So I have found that when I use the Zots, sometimes where I place it isn't where it ultimately ends up for whatever reason. It's not as stationary. Maybe for something like this, it would actually work okay. But you know what? I think if you're running out of foam squares, you could probably supplement it by putting some of these in the center, and that would be okay. But as far as, keeping this thing in place, I would definitely recommend using foam squares. They don't move around. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm gonna throw one right about there. Okay, so yeah, it's quite a few, but hey, you know what? Again, I think I bought like, I want to say that I got like 6 of these packages, and each package has a set of 1/2 inch and a set of 1/4 inch. I think it was a 6-pack for like $8, so it's not that bad. And we're not even using that much paper to make something this beautiful, so it's pretty inexpensive. I think the thing that'll cost the most is the shadow box, but again, if you're savvy and you stay up on, or look for sales and coupons, especially from Joann's. I think Hobby Lobby stopped doing coupons, but it seems like every time I go there, everything's pretty much on sale anyway. I think they did that to themselves. Okay, so just a few more. Speaking of camping, I'm going back to the Northwoods in July up in Wisconsin. Really looking forward to it this year. Could really use a little vacation. Okay, here we go. So this is a little floppy at the top. So what I would do is focus on getting the bottom section lined up initially, and then kind of holding on to this little floppy little guy here, and then popping that right into place. Just like that, press down throughout, and it's looking good. Okay, and moving on to the next section here, we've got our little water feature. Let's see here, yep, that looks good. So yeah, so you can see that we are using less real estate with each layer because the circle gets wider and wider and wider. So this is actually something that you could probably have a child help you with, especially if you're using, foam squares. You can say, hey, put these on and peel them off, and you can just sit back and have a good time, watch them do all the work. Especially if, you got a little date with a little camper and say, hey, you wanna make something cool for your room and get everything cut out and just enjoy the process and watch them have fun building this thing. So I think that's enough for this one. I'm gonna peel off the backing, and let me just have 2 more layers to go. Yeah, the next two layers actually have a little more real estate because of the tree elements that kind of create a cool natural looking frame for this piece. So, and trust me when I say that the backings on these are very easy to get off compared to some of the other ones. So if you can find these, definitely grab them. I think we may have them in our supply list on the app. If not, I'll have to double check. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so just like we did before, just get that nice and aligned and centered. Pop it right into place. Okay, so coming along here, in between takes, what I did was I took some tiny little silver rhinestones and glued them down onto the sky to, well, create some stars, which actually turned out really cool. They're really tiny rhinestones, so I did use my pick-me-up tool and, well, use that to help with the placement, because obviously it's almost impossible to hold those in your fingers. So anyway, 2 layers left. We have our first layer of trees. That's going on like this, and now this is where it's going to get a little, well, let me see here. Just trying to see if, I don't think we're going to run into any problems, but if we do, I'll share some tips with you here. Let's flip this over, and we can start applying our little foam squares here. Obviously, we're going to start around the perimeter. That's pretty much the most important. So let's do that. And then these trees, they're not really hanging off too much, if you know what I mean. So I don't think we need to really put too many foam squares here, if any at all. As you can see, the surface that we actually have that the foam squares will adhere to are mostly around the perimeter. So we're going to focus and keep all of these foam squares around the perimeter, and we'll see how far in we can go. Now obviously we can add extra ones in this little area here. So while you're doing this, you can use this as a reference, and we'll put this down so you can see that we have plenty of room here to add foam squares, which translates to this section here. Obviously we can come in almost as far as this little notch here, this little cutout. So we can put foam squares up to this point here, and up here we've got plenty of room here and here. So yeah, down here, which is this area here and here, we do have a little extra room to put a few, well, especially here, to put a few extra foam squares to keep it nice and sturdy. So I will take advantage of that for sure. And the rest of this, I'm going to go in about there. Now you can see where the circle is here. Okay, so we can actually bring it to about there. This I'm going to leave alone. I think that's fine. We can add one there. We'll do one here. And then down here we have some room. You can kind of pretend, you know, just kind of visualize where that circle is. And just try not to get any beyond that space. Okay. So I'll go there. I think that's good. And you know what? Just for good measure, I'm going to do one there and one there. And let's do one here and there. Okay. All right, so let's get to peeling because we only have one more layer to go to finish this thing off. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like in the shadow box. Now, it occurred to me when I was putting these rhinestones in place, now it would require a little more work, but I think it would be kind of cool if you took this back layer where the rhinestones are for the stars, if you cut little holes out with your machine and then maybe added a light behind it, that could be pretty cool. So I'm curious to see if anybody takes this, adapts it, and does that. It could be super cool, actually. So we'll see if someone makes that happen. That'd be really cool. And that's like the 9th time I've said that that's going to be really cool. So I'll stop doing that. Okay. All right, so this is going down like this. Again, just matching up the bottom left corner first. Now I'm taking a look at the bottom right. Everything's just kind of falling into place. And there we go, just like that. Perfect. Okay, now got our last layer here. And just want to make sure, again, the little grass, you're keeping that at the bottom. And we are going to elevate that as well. And I'll probably be using up the last of my foam squares here. And with this one, let me see here, make sure I'm giving you the right information. Yeah, so with this, these little, the green parts of the trees, I am going to try to put some foam squares behind these, okay? Because you can see they're kind of a little flimsy there. So anywhere you put a foam square on this green will be supported by the previous layer. So just keep that in mind. And again, we're starting around the perimeter in the corners and then halfway in. So one there, one there, one there, so on and so forth. And I'm gonna have to switch over to some different foam squares here in a moment because I might officially be out. I did not plan properly here. Let me take a look at my drawer and see if I have any more of these large ones. If I don't have the large ones, I can use the smaller ones. That's fine. It's not gonna hurt. Just gonna take a little extra time to peel all that stuff off. Okay, oh wait, here we go. Nope. I do have some other ones that aren't the same. These are the white ones here. Let me take a look and make sure that the thickness, they're a little thicker. So I probably won't use those because then it's gonna throw it off. But these smaller ones are perfect for these little sections here on the branches, the trees. Okay, and remember, you can also take and cut these with some scissors if, say, you want, to add a little bit of support into any areas that you feel could use it. So, for example, I've already cut this one in half. That would be a good place for one, I think. And let's see here. That one's going to be okay. I could add another one here. Keep that one nice and upright. Might be tough to get anything in here, so I'm going to put one right there. Okay. And let's see. I think that looks good so far. And then I'm just going to use the rest of these small ones to kind of fill in these areas where I don't have a lot of support. And, they may not be as big, so you might need to use a couple extra in these little areas. I'm sure there's some mathematical equation that we could use if we were physicists to figure out the perfect placement for all of these little foam squares, but that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So I'm going to avoid that because I just want to craft. Okay, I'm going to actually trim another one of these in half because I've got this little area here that I want to add just a little touch of support to. And then I could probably use one right there. Okay, so yeah, it kind of looks weird. Kind of looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It looks like something out of the 60s. Okay, so we're going to peel this off, and then this is going to be the last layer. That's going to complete this project. So kind of excited to see it all come together, especially in the shadow box, that's going to look really cool. But anyway, this definitely gets me excited for my trip up north to, I've mentioned it in various videos. There's a place up in northern Wisconsin in Vilas County. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's called Eagle River. It's next to, oh boy, it's next to Woodruff and St. Germain. So many, I think it's called Two Lakes. A lot of great places up there if you ever want to just go hang out with the family on a lake. Check out, VRBO, or rent a cabin up there. Maybe one day I'll have my own up there, but you need to sell a lot more of these for that to happen. But I do appreciate your guys' support over the years. It really is a blessing. All right, just a few more to go. We can see the end result here. Thank goodness the backing on these comes off so easily. It's kind of fun. All right, here we go. Let's flip her over. Grab this, and again with this, we're just matching it up with the bottom. I'm going to start on the bottom left, make sure it's nice and straight. Take a look. There we go. Perfect. And just give it a nice gentle push all the way around. Take a look. The top looks good. It looks great. Cool. All right, let's pop this in our little shadow box and see what it looks like. Okay. Fits perfectly. And let's seal it up. I'm not going to do all of them. Oh yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Well, that came out great. Take a look at that. What a nice, beautiful little work of art. Obviously, what you could do, because there's going to be a piece of glass on it, I'm leaving it off because it's easier to photograph, but grab some vinyl. You can add a child's name. You can add a cute caption. There's a lot of great outdoorsy, lake sort of related captions that you can add to it to, I forget what it was. It's just, life on the lake or camp life or whatever it is. There's probably a ton of them out there, but there it is. I think it looks great, and I had a blast making it. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I know I did. And if you make this, visit us on Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, and post a picture of your version. And if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell so that you get notifications anytime we release a new product, whether it be paid or free. And we've been doing live streams lately as well, so you don't want to miss those. But anyway, happy campers, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.